Good morning and welcome to Today in the News here on Vanguard Life. My name is Ololade Adeomi. A look into our newspapers for today, starting with Vanguard as usual. Major headline on Vanguard says Trump, NSA service chiefs meet as U.S. president intensifies threat. Ground operation airstrikes could be part of U.S. attack in Nigeria, says Trump. Chad shut borders with Nigeria. U.S. designation consequence of incompetence, says Obi. Governor Adeleke seeks diplomatic solution. Tinubu must not allow foreign military humanitarian intervention, says Afenifere. ADC blames Tinubu for Nigeria's blacklisting. Trump's threat of military action could stake more violence, erode investors' confidence, says experts. Major story can be found on page 5. Top banner. NAD faults federal government's welfare claims, demands truth over fiction. Security men shot PDP secretariat amid escalating tensions. Anambra, INEC vows enhanced result management. Credible poll. IGP wants IPOP, ESN against disruptions. Pension fund investment in federal government security rise 18.1% to 15.8 trillion naira. Lower banner. Oba Kiolu to Lagos government. Your demolitions must have human face. Shake up as Navy redeploys 65 rear admirals 2027 after Ekiti. APC stakeholders more consensus option. Away from Vanguard, straight into the Punch. A major headline on the Punch says Governors battle Wike as PDP faction jostle for control. Police seal PDP headquarters. Wike-backed chair moves in. Damagon block films. Tension ahead convention. Tobana says fresh travel tax scheme worth $1 billion sparks protest. Diri joins APC, tax PDP sinking ship. Tinubu moves to appoint new ambassadors amid U.S. tension. President meets Tuga today. U.S. federal government officials deep in talks. Lower banner. Governor Poole Amupiton visits Anambra. Parties sign peace accord. OPS. Labour rejects 20,000 naira note. NDLEA discovers new cannabis variant. California allowed in Lagos. Away from the Punch into the Nation newspaper. A look into the Nation newspaper. Major headline says Diri, I joined APC to stop Bayelsa from being buried with PDP. Top banner. Dear Mr. President, please do not let this 15% import tariff punish Nigerians again. Lower banner says Oyedele unveils 50 tax exemption and relieves drama as AG chair resumes at PDP headquarters. Away from the Nation, I look into the Guardian newspaper. Major headline on the Guardian says Trump's threat sparks investors' fears as economists split on impact. Top banner Togo, Niger, Benin Republic owe Nigeria $20 million for electricity supplied in 6 months. PDP, please shut Wadatada Plaza Legacy House as Mohammed assumes office. ADC slams Tinubu over Trump's military threat, rising insecurity. Federal government unveils 50 tax exemptions relief to cushion new fiscal reforms impact. Report blames government officials for 74% attacks on journalists. Resident doctors kick as federal government claims payment of 31 billion naira arrears. And lastly, Damagum's camp tags defectors betrayers as Shetima welcomes Diri to APC. That's all we have on the front page of the newspapers this morning. Join us after the break for a quick analysis of some of our top stories. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News. You're on Vanguard Life. My name is Ololade Adeomi. With me in the studio for a quick analysis today is Mr. Dayo Akintobi. He's the publisher at Kejejari today, Lekki today, and Ilupeju today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Olade. Good morning to all our viewers. Good morning, Nigeria.
Look into our very first story for today. The U.S. military action, ground operations, and on air strikes in Nigeria over alleged Christian genocide in the country. In reaction, the Nigeria's Office of the National Security Advisor (NSA), headed by Nuhu Ribadu, convened a meeting with the country's service chiefs and intelligence security agency at the National Counter-Terrorism Center in Abuja to review intelligence and coordinate a response. The meeting aimed to assess the implication of Trump's pronouncement on national security strategy. What do you make of President Trump's statement, threatening military action in a sovereign country like Nigeria?
Well, my first reaction was that what gives him the right? I mean, who appointed him the world's policeman? And what is his business with what's going on in other countries, like you said, sovereign nations? So that was my initial reaction. But then when I started listening to all the analysis and the commentary and some of the expert opinion, first thing is that America has a law that they passed some years ago. I think it's called Magnuson Law or something, that says anywhere in the world where there are human rights violations or where there are extreme cases of violence, that America reserves the right or has the right to interfere. First of all, for world peace. Secondly, to protect human and civil rights of anybody in the human race. And thirdly, to protect America's interests, because destabilization in some parts of the world can also affect America, because now we live in a global environment. And when a butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon, rain can fall in Australia. So we're all interconnected. So if something is happening in Nigeria that is causing a disruption, it can have negative effects on America's interests, or America's well-being. So essentially, what America is doing is protecting its interests in various parts of the world, although they make it seem like they care about the well-being of other people. But truth be told, when Trump said he doesn't like the fact that they are killing Christians in Nigeria and is ready to do something about it, it sounded a little rang hollow to me, because I don't think that he's caring for Christians or for black people or for Africans or for Nigerians in particular rises to the level that he'd be willing to risk American lives, to spend American money. Because anytime they mobilize troops to go anywhere, it costs a fortune with their, armored personnel carriers, with their super tankers that carry planes to mobilize the troops. It costs a lot of money. And they are coming from far away. They are not coming from next door.
America.
So to commit American resources and American lives, because truth be told, yeah, you can say America is powerful, they are strong, they can bomb, they have the strongest army. But at the end of the day, anytime you're going to any conflict, anything can happen. So as long as it's a confrontation, either of the two sides can suffer casualties. So the American public themselves, they're always wary when their government says they want to invade another country. You hear public opinion about why risk American lives. It's same thing happened in Vietnam. There were protests. Same thing happened in Afghanistan, all over, everywhere, Iran. Anytime America wants to go and invade a foreign country, whether it is even to protect American interests, wherever American lives are at risk, public opinion is usually against it, So one thing I'm glad about Trump's pronouncement is that it has lit a fire under our collective behinds. You can certainly see Abuja scrambling now. You see the NSA calling a meeting with the service chiefs. You see the president's spokespeople issuing different directives and public statements. So it seems all of a sudden our level of awareness has been gingered up to where now people realize we have a serious problem on our hands. If all it has taken Trump to do is to wake us up, because this problem is not new. We've had it for successive governments, even before Goodluck Jonathan's time. I think from 1999 or so, when I think it was the governor of Zamfara then declared Sharia, and then 11 other northern states followed suit to say they are not secular states, that they want to have Sharia law, which is Muslim law. I think that was the beginning of all the various different insurgencies. Not to say that that was what precipitated it. So I'm tracing, this history back as far as 1999, even maybe further. So it's not anything new. And so successive governments have been grappling with it and have not come up with a solution. And it seems like this present administration has been a bit more lukewarm towards the fight against banditry, terrorism, kidnapping. So if all Trump has served to do is to light a fire under us to make us rise up and realize that we don't want a foreign power coming to solve this problem for us. Or if we want a foreign power coming, it will be in collaboration that we sit down and we discuss together about how can you help us resolve these issues. Are you giving military support? Are you giving intelligence support? Because America has satellites all over the place. They can listen. They know all the internet chatter. They know where all the terrorists are hiding. They have eyes on the, apart from the fact that they even have boots on the ground, they have eyes in the sky. So nothing is hidden from them. So even just sharing intelligence with us is a way that can assist us. If we say, okay, we don't necessarily want their soldiers on our territory due to what we call sovereignty, but there are other ways they can collaborate with us in this fight that will strengthen our capabilities. So that's what we'd rather see, is that if you're going to be involved at all, it should be on a collaborative level as opposed to on an invading level whereby they are coming to take charge of the fight. I mean, I think it's a slight on us that a foreign country has to come and take charge. Not that we invited them, that on their own, they felt that we are incapable of winning this thing and that their interests are threatened. They don't want to impose themselves without our permission, without our acceptance, that they think they can just, because we have the most powerful military in the world and because they are the most economically whatever in the world, they think they can just go and do whatever they like. Well, we are the ones that have allowed them or that have given them the impetus to be able to start acting like, they have the wherewithal to do whatever they like in our own country. So I think now that, we've been woken up from slumber by his threat, I think it's a good thing. It's having a good effect because now we are scrambling to make sure that we don't get disgraced, that we don't get embarrassed, and that we ourselves now begin to try and address the problem in a different way from how we've been handling it all along.
So from your perspective, how should we interpret, the meeting with the NSA and service chiefs? What message do you think it passes domestically and internationally?
Well, ostensibly, the NSA and the service chiefs meeting was how to respond to Donald Trump's threat. There's no response you can respond to Donald Trump's threat because militarily we can't stand up to America. That's the truth. I had some commentary yesterday, Femi Fanikayode, Asari Dokubo. Some other people say, let them bring it on, let them bring it on, let them come. Excuse me, please. Let's not deceive ourselves. We cannot stand up to America's military might. They don't even have to land one troop on the ground where they can obliterate the entire country from the air or from the sea. So we don't want to test their military might at all. That's the truth. We don't want to. So no matter how professional our army is, we can't come close to being able to go head to head with the American military. So when they say they are meeting to gauge a response, I think the response is more strategic from the standpoint of, okay, how do we stop this from happening? The only way you can stop this from happening is if you listen to Trump's words, if you pass his words carefully. What he said was, if the Nigerian government does not stop the killing of Christians by Islamic extremists, then I will have no choice than to send in our own troops to eliminate them. So there's a caveat in there. If the Nigerian government does not. So flip that on the other side and look at it in the inverse. It means if the Nigerian government does enough to stop these attacks, then we won't do anything. So my view is that's what the NSA gathered the security chiefs to talk about is, okay, what do we have to do to address this issue differently, to stop it in such a way that America will not have to come and do it for us as they are threatening to do. So, well, the service chiefs are new. And in the last week or two, they've scored some successes. So perhaps the president knew what he was doing. See, in my language, they say, if a witch cries last night and a child dies this
This
morning,
morning.
who does not know that it was the witch that did something that killed the child? I don't think it's a coincidence that all these things are happening in a row. Rumors of a coup, changing of service chiefs, America coming to threaten to. The synchronicity and the timing of all those things following each other, they're all interconnected and interrelated. So I don't think it's a coincidence that the president changed the service chiefs when he did. He had some intelligence. He knew that something was coming, and he tried to ward it off by being proactive. So I think by virtue of the fact that we have new service chiefs, it gives the opportunity to say, let's see what they can do. Because if America was saying, well, you've had the same people in office for the last 2 years, the same service chiefs, and we haven't seen any results. At least now, if we are responding to them, we can say, well, we've got a new security architecture, and they've already started coming up with tactics and strategies to address this problem in a different way. So what we need to do is give them time to be effective. Then America has no response to that, because it is true. These people are new, they are untested. How do we know that they are not the ones that will come and solve this problem? Do you understand? So I suspect that what the NSA is meeting and discussing with the service chiefs is how to be able to take the wind away from America's sails by resolving this issue ourselves, even if it means requesting collaboration from them. The fact, what we don't want is for them unilaterally on their own to invade a sovereign country and take charge of resolving this problem for us. We want to be in charge of resolving our own problem, even if part of resolving it involves requesting collaboration from them. So I think that's what the NSA is up to.
So the service chiefs have met, their moves to appoint new ambassadors as well. Would you say that Nigeria so far has responded appropriately?
Responded appropriately to Trump's threats?
Yeah.
Well, as of yesterday, there were rumors that the president was actually going to go to America to meet with President Donald Trump. But later we started hearing that the administration debunked that it was not true. Then later we also heard that he would take the opportunity of the meeting of the G20 in South Africa to have a sideline chat with President Trump. Then later, news now came out that President Trump said he's not going to G20. So there will be no opportunity for them to even discuss there. Now, this issue of appointing ambassadors is like closing the barn door after the horse has bolted. I think part of the reasons for where we are today internationally is the fact that over the last 2 years, we've not been able to appoint ambassadors. If we had an ambassador in Washington and we had a representative at the United Nations, Nigeria's ambassador to the United Nations, I think they could have been engaging diplomatically, because America would have been talking to our own ambassador and telling him, we're not happy with what's happening. Why are they killing Christians in your country? And the ambassador would have been talking back to them and saying, it's not strictly Christians. There's killings everywhere. It's an insecurity problem. And America would have said, but there's genocidal killings on Christians. And the ambassador would have said, yes, there's genocidal killings on Christians, but there's genocidal Christians of Muslims too, and of Ifa worshippers too. So it's an insecurity problem. And he would have been engaging diplomatically. And the UN representative would have been talking to the Security Council so that information flow. I think part of this, the biggest part of this problem, and you've been seeing it in the media in the last few days, is wrong information. There's so much out there that Trump himself is probably making his conclusions based on a wrong perception of what is happening in Nigeria. So part of the reason America is viewing the situation the way they are viewing it, not to say it's totally incorrect, is because they don't have somebody who is telling them what exactly is going on. So that is a lapse of governance, that after 2 years we don't have ambassadors, and that without a doubt has played a role in what is happening internationally, both in terms of our image, in terms of bilateral relations with other countries, in terms of the perception other countries have about us. Our ambassadors are our first point of contact in each and every one of those countries. They are Nigeria's not just representative, but the symbol of Nigeria in those particular countries. So, truth be told, well, I heard that President Tinubu submitted a list to National Assembly quite a while back, but that there was various politicking. Because, ambassadorship usually is a reward system for those who supported political parties during
Yeah.
elections and things like that. So it's used to reward them. So understand that the list never made it to even a vote or screening or confirmation because so many people wanted this one removed, this one added, oh, we haven't compensated this. So politicking kind of stymied the conclusion of appointing ambassadors.
Actually,
But
the federal government actually said the major reason was money because they would have to renovate embassies and they have to pay the ambassadors as
we
well.
had
And
money
that
to
money
buy
they
we had
don't
money
have.
to buy a presidential yacht, we had money to buy a presidential jet, we had money to
And this reason came second.
it's a matter of prioritization. There are some things that are more important than others. And okay, so if we felt like we didn't have enough money to renovate embassies, pay outstanding rent, furnish places, and all that, the money we will now spend to resolve what has come out of us not having ambassadors will not be much more than what we would have spent if we had put them in place. See, I think it's all about preparedness. I think that if you are prepared for governance, that even before the day you are sworn in, you've already known your cabinet, you've already known your ambassadors, you've already engaged with them, you've already told them your vision. I remember the days of Chief Obafemi Awolowo before he ran for president in 1979. He already had his cabinet chosen. He had everything in place. Remember, we have this gap between when you are elected and when you are sworn in. And even before that, if you already know that you are serious about wanting, whether you win the election or not, you should be prepared. During the time you are campaigning, you should already know what you want to do and who are those who will surround you to achieve your vision. So 2 years after inauguration of a cabinet or inauguration of a president, to not have ambassadors in office is not only a crying shame, it's also part of what has led us to where we are today internationally, that a President Trump will talk about invading Nigeria.
Some commentators actually argue that the root cause of the U.S. action in Nigeria's inadequate security governance, including the failure to implement state policing, state police, and the rest. Do you support this? How valid is this particular argument?
Nigeria is a sovereign country. Nothing that happens in Nigeria, right, gives another country a right to interfere in our matters. I do think that America is more about its own interests. I've heard conspiracy theories about, they're after our mineral resources. It's really our oil that they want. And Dangote's refinery is a threat to their dominance of supplying refined products. They don't like the fact that China and Russia are starting to predominate in terms of trade and business relations. So that America's interests are threatened by Nigeria's current geopolitical strategizing, and that is part of what is motivating America. What I do know is that whatever America is saying or doing now, it is our lackadaisical nonchalance that is giving them the boldness to be able to interfere, because the very meaning of sovereignty is that your country is your country and you have total and complete control and no outside interference. That's why we have armed forces, to defend the territorial integrity, so that no outsider can come and invade us or come and infiltrate us. But when you talk about, do I think that the response, or that America wanting to come and do this, is it the right thing for them to do? I would say that if they had genuine concern about the fact that people that they love, and America is a homogeneous mix. They have blacks, they have whites, they have Christians, they have Muslims, they have Hindus, they have Jews. So why President Trump singled out Christians alone when America is a mix of everybody? America is not predominantly Christian. So why he now chose to say Christians alone is what is galvanizing in his interest? Because remember, Nigeria itself is almost evenly divided. So are you saying you love one part of Nigeria more than
More
you
than
love
the
the
other.
other? And if you love that one part of Nigeria, what part of your own country is the same as the people you are selecting, that you are willing to risk American lives to come and defend the people that are the same as some of your own people? So, I think it didn't go far enough. I think as opposed to if they really cared, if it was about concern, true concern for the welfare of Nigerians, I don't think he should have been that narrow in his definition of what they want to defend. I think it should have been a thing about the killings of Nigerians in the northern part of Nigeria, because in the northern part of Nigeria, we've seen Christians killed, we've seen Muslims killed. In fact, just yesterday in Kwara, the thing is now coming down south. It started Kano, Kaduna, Katsina. Then they started moving downwards. It went to Borno, Zamfara, and this. Then it went to Benue, Plateau. Now it's in Kwara, and Kwara is where the north ends and the south starts. So you can see the progression. So I think it should have been a thing about, we're not happy about the killings of Nigerians that's going on in the north, whether of Christians, whether of Muslims, whether of free thinkers. We're not happy about that. And we as Americans, who are people of all creeds and all races, and see that in Nigeria, there are people across board who are our people across board. So we, as human beings, want to come in and fight to defend fellow human beings that are people like us. I think by marginalizing it so narrowly, when it's not that America itself is a Christian country, right? Now, if Israel, which is 99% Jewish, right, talked about going to invade another country to protect the Jews in that country, then it makes sense, because Jew is protecting Jew. But America is not Christian. America is a secular country. It may have Christian communities. Even the Donald Trump that's talking, I don't think I've ever seen him in a church. And I don't think I've ever heard him quote a Bible. So how Christian is he to be saying he's concerned about strictly Christians in Nigeria? I think that goes to show what the real purpose is. It's not about, concern for Christians. It's about, guess what? Concern for America's interests.
Former army chief Tukur Brutai actually suggested that Nigeria should shift towards other global powers like China and Russia. Do you agree with that statement?
Whether I agree with it or not, it's happening. You can see that a lot of our infrastructure and a lot of our debt is Chinese based. There's a company called CCECC, China Civil Engineering Construction Company. They're the ones building almost all the roads, the railway, and they're doing it on finance. We're not paying them up front. They're doing it on loan, so we have outstanding debt to China. And, Russia too has been kind of trying to align with us. And that becomes a concern to America, because as far as they're concerned, the BRICS bloc, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, that BRICS bloc is an economic threat to America, the US, the EU, all of that, right? Because geopolitically, now global influence seems to be shifting. The sun is setting on the American empire slowly, because you can see that China has outdone it economically, outdone it. In fact, America owes China more money than anything else. So you can see that globally, right, geopolitical influence is shifting. The sun is setting on the west and rising in the east. So America cannot be too happy about the fact that Nigeria is, because of course the last BRICS meeting we aligned, we went, we attended, we spoke, we are trying to get admitted into BRICS, so America can look at it and think that, we've lost this one, and they continue to lose. Different. Look at the Chad, Mali, and Burkina Faso, who walked out of ECOWAS and who have cut all ties with France and who have aligned openly with China, with Russia, So all of a sudden, even if Nigeria is not openly aligned with those countries, you can see interactions, you can see transactions, you can see trade, you can see all this. So America is looking at it and thinking, we're losing this one, in spite of the fact that we do have a lot of trade together. But in terms of allies, we are losing this to the other side. And the friend of my enemy is not my friend. So if America is looking at it and say Russia, China, all these people, they are not our friends. So therefore, anybody who is aligning with those people is not America's friend as well. So Buratai may have been speaking with wisdom, because that's actually the shift now, even if it was not openly stated.
Away from that, into our second story for today. The Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority has concluded plans to introduce a new $11.50 levy on all international air tickets for inbound and outbound passengers, a move that they said will yield over 1 billion naira dollar in revenue over the next 2 decades. But this particular introduction of levy has sparked concerns, among operators, and protesters say that this tax is untimely, given the already high cost of living, the economic hardship amongst Nigerians, and they even argue that the government is shifting more burden onto the ordinary citizens. In your opinion, do you think that this new travel tax scheme is necessary, especially considering the fact that we're already paying so much tax when it comes to, flight? We already have the airport security charge, we have the security charge, we have the airport development charge as well, we have the passenger terminal facility charge. Do you think this is timely? Do you think?
Before we started the show, you were telling me that you did an analysis of the cost of a ticket, and in actual fact, the airfare, the actual airfare, is one of the lowest components of the total fee charged. That taxes actually exceed the cost of what the airline collects from you. But this government has shown its penchant to want to be a tax and spend government. I think they are trying to get us away from oil dependency for government revenue and say, the way it's really properly done in developed capitalist societies is that it is taxes that run the government. It is corporate taxes, it is income taxes, it is consumption taxes like VAT that government uses for its revenue. Now, that is a tenable argument in places where resources are private property, where resources belong to you. Dig the ground in your backyard, you strike oil, it is yours. All you do is pay tax and royalty to the government. But in a case where government claims everything below the ground, even if the land is mine that I bought, I dig, I find oil, that oil belongs to the government. And all government's money is all our money. So at the end of the day, instead of me alone owning that oil, all of Nigeria owns that oil. So you now ask yourself, is it not double jeopardy that at the same time that you are claiming all the natural resources that belong to all of us, that you are claiming in for the government to run the government, at the same time you are now asking us also to give you additional money? We've already given you our commonwealth that's in the ground. You are now saying we should give you our sweat as well. Every other country in the world is either or. Either I'm giving you from the toil of my sweat, or I'm giving you from the common resources that we all own, that God has endowed us with. So for us to be doubly taxed is why there is resistance, because it overburdens the ordinary Nigerian. This government's attitude about this airline matter is the same attitude they had about telephony back in the day, that is phone for poor people. So they are looking at airline and say, when you said ordinary Nigeria, is it poor people that fly airline? Ordinary Nigeria, can they? It's 500,000, as you said, to go to Abuja and come back. Can ordinary people afford it? So they are looking at it and say, it's the rich that fly. How many people in Nigeria can afford 500,000 to go to Abuja and back? A person like me will take luxurious bus, luxurious bus, and go night bus and pay 50,000. Where will I get 500,000? Even if I'm going to chase a government contract, where will 500,000 come from to fly there and back? So the attitude is the rich that can fly. So what this is a luxury tax on things that only the rich can afford, because they are not necessities, quote unquote. Telephone was not a necessity. Alcohol is not a necessity. Tobacco is not a necessity. Cars are not a necessity. Those are luxurious items for those who have eaten belly full and who can now afford to splurge on luxuries. So it's supposed to be a punitive tax. and say, oh, you want to fly, Abi, you want the comfort and the luxury of getting there quickly, of getting there in comfort, of the, but where you pay for it. And government is looking for money everywhere. Where? The question becomes, is even if only the rich can afford to fly, is it morally right that we should squeeze to the point that maybe in that 500,000 to Abuja, maybe only 150,000 is going to the airline and 350 is going. 350 is going, the balance is going to the government. Is that fair, even on rich people? So yeah, at the end of the day, what's going to happen? The airline will pass on the cost to the customer. That's the way business is run. They get burdened with greater taxation or greater expenses, they pass it on to the end user. So those who already are paying 500,000 to fly should expect to pay maybe 650 to fly after this tax. And what lets you know is they've said, oh, it will generate 1 point something billion dollars for the government's coffers. Okay, so when you've taken 1 point something billion dollars from my toil, are you going to give me 1 point something billion from my resources that are in the ground? Are you going to return? Because you can't take it in two places now. How can you take $1.2 billion from my sweat and then go and take $1.2 billion from our common resources in the ground? It has to be either or. And until Nigerians begin insisting that if you are going to continue to tax us the way you are taxing us, then you cannot claim the resources in the ground for the government. It has to be shared by everybody.
The government actually argues that it needs more revenue to meet its obligation. Do you agree that citizens should bear the brunt of this?
What does government exist to do? Government exists to meet the needs of its people, to provide for them, provide security and look after their well-being. That's what government exists to do, right? Government is not supposed to be profligate in doing all these things. They're supposed to be prudent. But when you see 48 ministers, for example, each of them with aides, each of them with security, each of them with convoys,
Yes.
you know that government is wasting money that could go to serve the people better. I mean, up to tomorrow, look, resident doctors are on strike. Why are they on strike? As we speak, people are dying daily in Nigerian hospitals because there's no medical attention. Why are the resident doctors on strike? Money.
Unpaid allowances.
Unpaid allowances. And they said until they are given from as far back as 2020. So all this money that government is talking about raising here, what are they doing with it? It's not going in service of the Nigerian people because here, ASU wanted to strike a few weeks ago. Money. Doctors on strike, money. Everywhere you look, NLC wanting complaining, TUC complaining. That they claim we are now making from more oil coming from the ground, trillions that we are still borrowing. Just a few days ago, you read that World Bank approved so many. We are borrowing, and over a few years from now, all this debt is going to come back and come and be a problem for us. So there's a disconnect somewhere between the revenue side and the expense side. And I think a lot of it has to do with government leakages, government profligacy, corruption, and outright theft. So I think until we can begin to address that, how do we address that? We begin to get the leaders that will set things aright. So at the end of the day, it all comes back to us, those who don't vote, those who vote based on sentiment, based on religion, based on ethnicity. Oh, it's our child, oh, let him go. It's our turn, oh. Apart from it's our child, that is our turn, oh. So when we vote on sentiments like that, we end up getting leaders who get us to where we are, So at the end of the day, it's our fault. So we have ourselves to blame for where we find ourselves, and we are the only ones who can fix it.
Thank you very much for joining us today. Our time is fast spent. It was a pleasure having you in the studio.
My pleasure always.
That was Mr. Dayo Akitobi, publisher Ikaja GRA today, Lekki today, and Ilu Peju today. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms as seen on your screen. For up-to-date stories, visit our website at www.vanguardngr.com. My name is Ololade Adewumi.